Rain drums on the skylight. The museum is a dark lung. I unlock the Near East case and count to 10 in my head. 10 is how I trim fear. The Sumerian cylinder seal should sit in a velvet cradle. It does not. A perfect outline remains. The label is straight. The dust ring is unbroken. Theft without a tremor. I check the plate camera on the column. The timer is wound. The plate is blank. Nothing but the faint texture of night. No figure. No ghost of a coat. Just empty air preserved in silver. Evan Reed, our youngest attendant, finds me with a lamp. Storm rattled the roof, he says, but the locks held. His eyes are too bright. Ambition makes a small light of its own. Mrs. Halpern arrives from the basement with a key tray. No broken wards, she reports. No bent brass. She sniffs the air. Shellac, old rope, rain. She does not say fear, though it is present. I open the accession ledger. I know the page by touch. I can name each donor in my sleep. On line 3, a dot of blue has bloomed. Not navy, peacock-blue. The color an aniline ink leaves in a cheap steel nib. New York stationers carry it for a season, then forget it existed. The catalog card is as I left it, or almost. The corner sits half a hair proud. I do not trust hairs, but I record them. I slide the card out. A whisper of grit, paper dust, recent. Clara Whitcomb enters without hurry, chair of the board, hat like a verdict. The rain woke my maid, she says. Is anything amiss? Her eyes look past the empty cradle and land on me. I am the statement she wants to read. Dr. Lowell March follows in her wake, a gentleman of soft voice and careful shoes. Memory is a weather of its own, he tells the air. In storms it slips. He smiles as if he has given comfort. He has not. We will close the hall, I say. We will inventory every object. We will not speak to the press. Simple lines. Breath marks for the lungs of the staff. Evan shifts. The plate should have seen a shadow, he says. Unless the shutter failed, he swallows. I serviced them yesterday. When, I ask. Before dusk, he says. On Mrs. Whitcomb's request. The ladies wanted a night photograph for the charity circular. He winces at his own sentence. It is helpful and it is late. I pocket the blue note in my mind. I pocket a second one. The smell that rides the rain is not only rope and shellac. It is faint, powder, dry as a library. Orris, the root ladies dust in their gloves. It does not belong in this hall at dawn. I climb the iron stair to the upper rail. The skylight sweats. In the frame, a fine glint sleeps where no glint should be. Not glass, not rain, mica. Decorative powder travels when hands move in the dark. I stand under the empty case and listen. The building answers with its usual voices. Steam, timber, the far bell of the streetcar. Nothing nervous, nothing kind. The seal is gone, I say at last. The words feel staged and yet true, but the room is too clean. Clara folds her gloves, one finger at a time. Then it was someone who loves order, she says. Or someone who sells it, I answer. We cover the cradle with a cloth. We hang a sign in a calm hand, temporary study, a lie that can breathe for one day. I lock the case and press my thumb to the cold brass. I do not doubt my memory. Not yet. I doubt the night, and the people who invited it inside. Morning thins the storm to a steady hiss. I walk to the front office. I ask for all slips from last week, deliveries, repairs, any hand that touched paper here. Mrs. Halpern brings a tied bundle. Twine, brown covers. Her notes sit on top like quiet verdicts. I sort by smell first. Coal soot from the boiler man. Fish glue from the frame shop. Then I find what I came for. A sharp, sweet trace, like violets with iron. Aniline ink, the shade they call peacock. The slip is from Whitcomb and Sons stationers. It lists glassine envelopes and 2 tins of peacock-blue, paid in cash. The signature is a flourish that hides a left-hand pull on the final R. I copy the odd pressure in my head. I have seen it before, on our catalog card. The blue bloom, the same push, the same mistake. I take my coat and go to the stationer. Bells jingle like coins. The boy behind the counter is new to breath. Yes, sir, 2 tins. Yesterday, he says, for the ladies' circle, a delivery to the museum. Which lady? I ask. He lowers his voice because the word ladies has gravity in small towns. A Miss Pierce signed, he says, but she said it was for Mrs. Whitcomb's circle. He blushes. He remembers gloves. He remembers perfume. I buy a sample vial. I test a dot on my cuff. Peacock flares and dries with a thin rim. The rim is the tell. Cheap dye travels. Back at the museum, I meet Clara on the stair. Her smile is a polished coin. "Arthur, you need rest," she says. "We will put a notice in the paper. The object is out for study." It is not a lie if study is planned. It is a comfort, I say. That is a kind of lie. She inclines her head. Donors need a story they can repeat at lunch, she says. Give me one with short words. In the reading room, I set the catalog card on blotting paper. I breathe. I touch the corner with distilled water. A pale peacock rim rises from the old blue. Not yesterday's touch, last night's. Someone wrote with a fresh nib, then slid the card back without drying it. Dr. Lowell March appears between shelves like a thought. He carries a pamphlet, Memory by Ebbinghaus. Accuracy is a stern friend, he says. She visits, then leaves. He sits without asking. You slept. Enough, I say. He opens his watch. He makes a show of setting it. What time did you discover the loss, he asks. Say it aloud. Fix it. 4:20, I say. By the depot bell. The bell has lagged, he says softly. I wrote the sexton last week. The clapper sticks. He smiles with his eyes. Your mind is admirable. Your instruments are provincial. He wants to move the hour. He wants to move the ground. I nod as if I agree. I do not. The bell lag is 2 minutes on rainy days. I have counted it since June. Evan hovers at the door with an armful of plate boxes. Sorry, he says. I have to change the chemistry. On whose orders? I ask. Mrs. Whitcomb asked for clearer plates, he says. For the circular. Ladies hate grain. I lift one box. It is lighter than it should be. The developer has been thinned. Nights will look like mist. Faces will look like weather. Set the old mix, I tell him. Today the ladies will love grain. He nods. He leaves. I sign the evidence ledger. I write in tight, slow letters, slip, stationer, peacock, card, rim. I leave space between the words. Breathing room on paper keeps panic from breeding. On my way back through the near East Hall, I stop at the case. The cloth still lies over the empty cradle. The sign still says, temporary study. The lie has not grown teeth. Yet, I stand under the skylight and hold the stationer's slip up to the light. Mica in the glass throws a pale star across the blue ink. It looks like a blessing. It is not. It is just powder, set loose by a hand that wore gloves dusted with orris. Memory is a stern friend, yes, but paper is a judge. And ink is a witness that does not care whom it embarrasses. Night returns like a practiced thief. The storm grows thin. Only a steady rain remains. I carry a lamp and a small mirror. I want the skylight to talk. The near East Hall is hushed. Cloth over the cradle. Sign on the rail. Temporary study. It reads as mercy. It works as cover. I climb the iron stair. The roof frame crouches above me, black ribs, wet breath. I set the lamp low, then shield it with the mirror. Slow arcs, small flashes. There, a tiny star winks on a crossbar. Not water, not dust, mica. It sits in a patch of wax shine. I touch the shine with a bone blade, soft, recent, wax from glove seams, or from a candle stub used as a wedge. I test the latch of the roof hatch. It answers with a dull click, not stiff. Oiled this week. I smell tin and linen, and a faint, cold flower. Orris. It rides the wet like a rumor. It says a lady's glove worked here. It says she did not come alone. Footsteps below. Evan appears with a coil of line and a face that wants approval. I brought ladder keys, he says. Do you need the outer stair? Later, I say. Tell me about last night. He swallows. Mrs. Whitcomb asked for the timers, he says. She said the circle wanted night plates of the skylight. For a donation flyer. She brought 3 ladies, and Dr. March. They were polite. They wore long gloves. They laughed at the thunder. Which door? I ask. The service passage by the print room, he says. I stayed near the plates. I did not watch their feet. Did anyone ask you to thin the developer? I ask. His ears color. Dr. March, he says. He said grain makes donors uneasy. I nod. What time did you wind the skylight plate? 9:50, he says. On the bell. The bell lagged, I say. It did, he answers. I added 2 minutes, per your notes. He looks relieved. He thinks we still stand on the same floor. I point at the crossbar. See the mica? He does. Like on the costume in the cast room, he says. Lady Hecuba, the school group touched it last week. Like in the circle's powder, I say. The tins at the stationer carry the same shine. We open the hatch and look onto the wet roof. Tar, pebble, a square of burlap near the drain folded twice. It bears a faint grid. The kind a ladder foot leaves when it sits in cloth to mute sound. Did you place burlap? I ask. He shakes his head. No, we pull the cloth. The pebbles below are flattened. Recent. The drain holds 3 things that do not belong together. A short match, a chip of pale paste, a sliver of card with a peacock rim. I line them on the sill. Wax, mica, orris, ink, I say. All our guests in one pocket. Evan shifts his weight. Do you think Mrs. Whitcomb took the seal? He asks. He whispers the name as if names have doors. I think someone moved it where no one looks, I say. I think the circle asked you for timers to make an alibi you would repeat back. He nods once. Slow, he sees the trap and his place in it. We close the hatch. We wipe the sill, then leave a dust cross on the paint. A small test. A hair across a coin. If fingers return, I will know. On the way down, rain rings the skylight like glass bells. In the hall, the cloth over the cradle lifts, then settles. A draft or a hand. I wait. Nothing moves. In the reading room, the air holds the last of the orris. Dr. March liked to sit here. He liked to set watches. He liked to set minds. I log the finds. I write with slow teeth. Hatch oiled. Burlap square. Ladder print. Wax. Mica. Orris. Stationer chip. I leave space. The page breathes. Before I leave, I stand in the cast gallery. Plaster kings stare without pity. One Roman torso carries a thin seam of fresh putty, low on the plinth. New work, new weight. The room feels heavier by a pound I cannot see. I mark the plinth in my head. I mark it again. Outside, the streetcar bell argues with the hour. I count to 10. 10 holds the fear. 10 keeps me steady. The seal is gone, but perhaps it never left. Morning burns clean. The rain thins to pins. I take my hat. I walk to the telephone exchange. The room is warm with breath and wire. Girls in headsets move like sewing needles. A wall of chords. A wall of small, exact choices. Who handled the museum line last night? I ask. I keep my voice soft. I show my pass. I show a letter from Clara that asks for courtesy. Courtesy opens doors. Miss Keegan checks her log board. Pencil ticks. Initials, times. We passed 3 after-hours calls, she says. All marked courtesy, all from the same party. She taps a column. The phrases were neat, rehearsed. I ask her to repeat them. She does. She keeps the cadence. Ladies circular, night photograph. Quiet staff, please do not mark the hour. The last line is the hook. Do not mark the hour. Who gave the name? I ask. A Miss Pierce, she says, but the voice changed on the 4th sentence. Older, bright, like a teacher. She blushes. She knows the town. She knows Clara's theater voice. Any other orders? I ask. A call to Harrigan Ladders at 8:20, she says. Delivery to the service gate. 1 painter's ladder with felt feet. Pay on delivery. The caller used a man's name. Then she coughed and corrected it. I thank her. I leave a museum pass for her brother. The town runs on small mercy. Harrigan's yard smells like sap and rope. Mr. Harrigan is all mustache and pride. He likes cash, he loves recall. Yes, sir, felt pads, short climb. Woman in long gloves paid me at the gate, he says. Said ventilation, said the skylight sticks. Did she touch the ladder? I ask. She said a burlap square under the feet, he says. I told her that was clever. She smiled like I had named a trick she had already used. Back at the museum, the service gate shows a smear of wax on the latch. The burlap print on the roof now has a twin on the step. Miss Keegan's neat cadence hums in my ear. The same words, the same order, the same hand shaping voices. In the reading room, Dr. March is waiting with a book on forensic memory. He opens it to a page he has marked. Witness speech is a pattern, he says. People borrow phrases. People copy the last word they heard. Do doctors, I ask. He smiles at the sting. More than most, he says. I set the stationer's slip on the table. I set the mica chip. I set a ribbon of burlap thread. I do not speak for a breath. The room does the counting for me. Clara's circle placed calls, I say. They asked the operator to hide the hour. They hired a ladder with felt. They stood on burlap. They oiled the hatch. They wore gloves dusted with orris. He nods. He does not deny the circle. The board serves the museum, he says. Methods are furniture. Intent is the room. Intent moved a seal, I say. Intent kept it from being sold, he answers. You know this pressure. Roof leaks. Coal bills, donors who like moving vans. Evan steps in with a parcel. From Whitcomb Stationers, he says. For the circle, paper rattles. A tin shines inside. Peacock-blue. A card sits on top. For publicity, the card says. In a hand that leans too hard on the R, I keep my breath steady. I sign the receipt. I take the card for the file. In the cast room, the Roman torso waits. The seam is still new. The plinth has a dull weight that offends my hand. I lift the edge with my fingers. The wood says hollow. The plaster says tired. A tiny snow of fresh putty dust glitters on the floor. Not mica, not rain. Work. The silence in my head grows a door. I open it. I let the thought in. What if the seal never left the building? What if the case was emptied to start a clock? What if the circle hid the original inside a thing no one would move? A cast, a copy, a body that already lives in white. I fetch scales from the print room. I weigh an honest cast. I weigh the suspect plinth. The number is wrong by a small, stubborn inch, enough to hold a cylinder wrapped in felt. I put my palm on the plaster. It returns my heat. It keeps my doubt. I whisper to the room. You are a safe, I say. You are a sermon. On my ledger I write, operator, phrases, do not mark hour. Ladder felt, burlap, card with R cast seam. Wait, then I draw a line. Then I write one more word for myself. Inside, I close the near east hall. I lock the doors. I bring only two things, a scale, a bone blade. The cast room holds its white breath. Roman emperors stare like they remember being bronze. The suspect plinth sits low as if humility were weight. I kneel. I touch the seam again. Fresh, tacky in the deepest pour. Not an hour, not a week. Last night, a craftsman did this in a hurry, or a patron did it with care and no practice. I tap the side with the bone blade. Hollow rings. Then a dull core. Something wrapped, something that hates to echo. I take the scale and lift a clean cast of similar size. I note the number. I lift the suspect. The needle sits 2 ounces high. Not much, enough to be a secret. I slide the bone blade into the seam. I do not pry, I listen with my hand. The plaster speaks grain by grain, a low crackle, a sigh, a release. I stop when a curl of felt peeks through. Evan watches from the rail. Should I fetch Mrs. Halpern, he whispers. Not yet, I say. Fetch Clara. He hesitates, he goes. I cover the felt again. I set the blade aside. I write a card, maintenance. Do not move. I place it on the plinth like a priest setting bread. I walk to the reading room. Dr. March waits with 2 cups. He likes to arrive before results. You look pale, he says. Memory takes sugar. Sit. Later, I say. Tell me why you thinned the developer. He folds his hands. He does not flinch. Faces grow soft in grain, he says. We raise money from softness. You raised an alibi, I say. You asked Evan to wind the plates on a night the circle would be present. You borrowed the bell. You moved the hour. You wrote do not mark into an operator's ear. He considers me with a sadness designed for pupils. Arthur, he says, you fear losing your memory more than you fear losing an object. The circle feared losing the museum. We each protect our reliquary. Clara arrives. Gloves, hat, calm. You asked for me, she says. Is there news we can shape? In the cast room, I say, bring your calm. We stand at the plinth. Evan keeps a respectful distance at the door. I show Clara the seam. I show her the scale record. I do not show her the felt, not yet. She studies the putty line. Neat, she says. Not professional, but neat. Will you speak plainly, I ask. Did the circle stage a theft to freeze the board, to stop a sale, to call insurance, to buy a roof with scandal? She lets out a breath she has been holding since the war. We staged time, she says. We did not steal. We hid. We kept the seal from a train. We kept your work from a truck. We counted donors and found only thunder. Thunder kills cameras, I say. Thunder hides feet on a roof. Dr. March leans on the rail, voice low. We will return it at the gala, he says. We will tell a story about vigilance. The town will cheer. The check will clear. No harm. No harm is a story, I say. A man came to work under a lie today. An operator hid an hour for you. A boy thinned plates so you could be vague. Clara's eyes are not unkind. And you, Arthur, she says, you moved a maintenance card like a judge. You will decide whether to cut that seam now or wait. Either choice is moral. Either choice is political. Evan shifts. The floor whispers. Mrs. Halpern appears silent as glue. The plinth is wrong, she says. I smelled felt at dawn. She looks at me. We do this by book. We call a witness. We prepare a pad. We cut. I nod. I point. She lays a canvas. She draws a chalk oval. She warms a knife, not a bone blade. She hums a tune that sounds like drying varnish. We pause once more. We let the room vote with its silence. It does not. The knife goes in. The seam lifts like a lid. Felt shows pale and careful. Mrs. Halpern peels it slow. The cylinder gleams. Dark stone. Fine as a wrist bone. The ancient world intact and unamused. Clara exhales. Dr. March closes his eyes as if in prayer. Evan says nothing. He is learning about afters. We will not move it farther, I say. We seal the plinth again. We write our notes. We draft two versions of truth. One for the board, one for the file. Clara nods. At the gala, she says, we will discover it. We will praise vigilance. We will promise climate control. We will not discuss ladders. Dr. March smiles. We will host a salon about memory, he says, and thank the curator for his unwavering recall. I cover the seal. I breathe. I taste orris fading in the hall. I write in the ledger, found. Inside cast, circle present. Then I add a private line. Harm, not none. Outside, the streetcar bell finds the hour. For once, it is honest. I take that as a small blessing, or as a note in a long score. Night turns the Whitcomb Conservatory into a green echo. Glass sweats. Lamps glow through fern and mist. Donors drift with glasses and agreeable smiles. A trio plays soft. The air is warm with soil and orris. Clara opens the evening with a brief grace. Roofs, education, the town's future. Then she offers the room to Dr. March. He smiles like a hush. He speaks of memory, of slips and storms, of bells that lag. He invites me forward, a friendly trial, a parlor game with stakes. Arthur, he says, tell us the minute you found the case, speak it. Fix it, 4:20, I say, by the depot bell. He tilts his head. The bell has been late, he says. We wrote the sexton. I nod. 2 minutes. In rain. I counted it in June. I counted it again this week. Soft laughter. Not kind. He gestures to a table. On it, a fresh catalog card. A small vial of peacock ink. A pen with a steel nib. Write the object's title from memory, he says. Show us certainty. I do. The nib bites. The blue blooms. A thin rim forms as it dries. I lift the card to the light. Mica sprinkles from the shade and makes a small star on the rim. The rim is because the dye is cheap, I say. The star is because your circle-dusted gloves. The same powder lay on our roof. A pause, not long, enough. I set down 4 things. I place them like beats. A ladder invoice with felt feet. A thread of burlap found at the hatch. A sliver of card with a peacock rim. A calling card from the stationer. With a hand that leans too hard on arm, Miss Keegan at the exchange recalled your words, I say. Each call, same cadence. Night photograph, quiet staff. Do not mark the hour. She heard one voice under 3 names. She heard yours, doctor, on the 4th sentence. Bright like a teacher. March smiles again. Smaller. Patterns seduce us, he says. We hear what we fear. I nod. Then hear this. The plinth in our cast room was light by 2 ounces. The seam was new. Felt lay inside. The cylinder was there. Not stolen. Hidden. While your circle asked for softened plates. While you shifted the hour with a bell you had already corrected on paper. A donor coughs. Another sets down a glass too hard. The ferns do not move. Clara steps in. The board acted to protect the collection, she says. Calm, clear. No crate, no train, no sale while an insurance file is open. She looks at me, then at the room. We wanted a pause. We lacked a lever. We used time. You use people, I say. Evan, Keegan, Harrigan. Me, because people keep museums, she answers, and people let them die. March lifts the pen again. Your memory is admirable, he says, but motive is mercy. You felt that in the cast room. You stayed your knife until witnesses came. I stayed my knife to keep a record, I say, and I brought a scale. I turn to the guests. Tomorrow morning, I say, we will put the plinth on stage. We will open it. We will log the hour. We will show the weight. We will match this R to 3 letters in our file. If you still wish for a story, you may keep one, but you will not keep a lie. Clara breathes in, then out. She nods once. Very well, she says. We will do it properly. March looks at the palms overhead. Memory is not a courtroom, he says. No, I say, it is a museum. It needs labels and dates. Morning is clear. The bell keeps good time. The town arrives in quiet shoes. We set chairs in the cast room. We place the scale where all can see. We bring a single lamp. No theatrics, only work. Clara speaks first. Short words, measured breath. The board thanks donors. The board values truth. Then she steps aside. I face the room. I list the steps. Ladder with felt. Burlap at the hatch. Peacock ink on a card. Mica under the skylight. Orris in the air. New seam, fresh putty, wrong weight. I keep sentences clean. I let each noun sit. Mrs. Halpern lifts the canvas. She warms the knife. She cuts no deeper than the seam. The lid loosens. Felt shows. A small sound moves through the chairs. Not shock, recognition. We peel the felt. The cylinder lies as it did in the cradle before the rain. Ancient stone. Fine cuts. The past patient as ever. Logged, I say. Found at 9:12. Witnessed. I speak for the ledger. The ledger hears me. A man by the pillar mutters, so no theft. I answer without anger. There was a theft, I say, of hour and of trust. The object never left, our facts did. I set 4 proofs on a tray. The ladder bill, the stationer's slip, the exchange notes copied by Miss Keegan. 3 letters, each with the same hard R. I show the rims where the blue dried too wide. I show the mica flecks in the crease. Dr. March asks to speak. He does not hide behind a smile. We stalled a sale, he says. We called it mercy. We use people as tools. That is not mercy. He bows his head. He is a soft man and still he has edge. I note both. Clara holds the room. We wanted time, she says. We stole it. We will pay what time now asks. Roofs, proper guards, no more plays with bells. A hand rises from the back. Evan. I thinned the developer, he says. I will not again. Another hand. Miss Keegan, invited inside. I marked the hour, she says, in my own book. The room exhales. Some faces stiffen, some warm. Donors like a myth, but they like a plan more. I move to the Near East case. I lift the cloth. I lay the cylinder in its cradle. The velvet remembers its weight. The label looks right again. I close the glass. I turn the key. I test the lock twice. Temporary study, the sign said. I take it down. I place a new card in the holder. Return to case. Simple, true. Report work remains. Insurance. Minutes. A dull parade. Yet I feel the building ease. Timber answers in low, pleased clicks. Steam takes its calm. Even the skylight, washed clean of mica, glows like plain day. On my desk I write the last line. The seal did not travel. We did. I add one more for me. Memory kept its shape because paper held it still. Clara stops at the door. Will you stay, she asks, through winter? I will, I say. On one condition. Name it, she says. No salons about memory, I say. Not until the roof is fixed. She almost smiles. Agreed. I walk the galleries once more. I check latches. I breathe the quiet. I count to 10. 10 turns steady and small. 10 is enough. Outside, the streetcar bell rings on the minute. Children press faces to the museum glass. They see only light and a room that holds. Under that light, a seal waits and does not judge. The past is not angry, it is exact. It asks us to be the same.